In the game of life, the bold are guided by two unapologetic groups: the unmuters who speak their truth, and the rebels who live life on their own terms. These are their stories. We are live, and welcome to episode 6 of the Unmuted podcast, where I just basically have conversations with inspiring people who share their stories of how they felt muted in their life and what they've done to unmute, and some tidbits of inspiration and gold to share with the community. So today I have a little brother with me, who I met a couple of years ago. I call him my little brother because you are younger than me and you're my little brother. So Alex, thank you for joining me today for episode
Hey,
6.
it's good to be here. I'm really excited for this, and I've never been on a podcast before, so we'll see how I do.
Really?
No, I
Oh
think
my
I was on
gosh.
like a maybe one like years and years ago, but it was very brief. It was just my friend I don't know. It was a video game thing. I barely remember it.
Oh,
But yeah,
well, I'm glad we're doing it.
yeah.
We're not thinking too much about it. We're just like, just words of advice to anybody who's looking to start something: just do it. Don't worry about how things
Yeah,
look. You see my fan there? Somebody's going to tell me that was just a bad effect because it's really irritating, but I see it right now, but I don't care because it's not about that. It's about the conversation that I'm having with you. So, um,
right.
yeah. Alex, do you want to share?
Yeah.
Well, just
I'm in.
where did we
So
met? Where did we meet? You share that
So
story.
we met at a personal growth and development retreat outside of Austin, Texas, back in 2022,
Oh my
and
gosh, it's 22.
it was 2022, Priya. Yeah, I know. It was 2 years ago, and it was life changing. It was definitely something that I was very blessed to do, and as were you. I think I went into that whole, personal growth and development phase of my life, and I'm still there, obviously. You know, just trying to like hit baseline because I'd spent so much time in my life just kind of living out of necessity and um, kind of just waiting for life to get better, and there was always those, well, when I make more money, I'll be able to be happy, or
Mm-hmm.
when I hit this milestone, then I can, afford to go on a vacation or whatever. And I spent kind of years just in that mindset, not really realizing that time is, just kind of flying underneath my feet. And um, you know, when you're not aligned and you're not living your unmuted self, when you are muted by whatever it is, society, or your trauma or whatever, I think that we can tend to just continue to like spiral downwards, and
Yeah.
that might seem like kind of like a dramatic way to say
No.
that, but if you're left to your own devices and you don't really have any help, or somebody there to kind of like show you that, hey, there's a different way, then it doesn't get better, right? you
Right.
know, um, and I think I was just there. I'd ended up at a point where, and um, I was just not happy, Priya, and so something had to give, something had to change, and when that happens, as often happens with other people, I'm sure it's like you kind of are looking around and you have no more fingers to point,
Yeah.
and so it was like it was coming back to me, and that was beautiful, because it gave me the ability to really just look at myself, and through going through that retreat, reading books like, simple books at first, like the Four Agreements, and you know just like um podcasts that I'd find on the internet or whatever. It it kind of started to open me up, and I think that really the turning point was not only that retreat, but with you specifically, I'd done a quantum healing session. So I had no idea what that was at that point, and it just everything clicked. I'm somebody that, like, I'm a suicide survivor. My mom committed suicide when I was 29 years old. So old enough to know my mom and remember her and have a relationship with her.
Hmm.
But it's something where it's just a lot. Grief is a lifelong long thing, and
Yeah.
um, just looking back at that, uh, I was able to kind of use those things to button up, those parts of my life, to forgive my mom, to accept her decision, which, hey, that's not for everybody. I get it. Like, if you have a teenager or something that, they took their own life, then, that's a lot different. But, at this point, it's like, I was able to kind of, uh, like, look at her and say, hey, I don't necessarily agree with your decision, but you're my mom and I love you and I support you no matter what. And that made it a lot easier for me to carry her with me, and also
Yeah.
to, like, appreciate the pieces of herself that, I really didn't appreciate before. Maybe because of, I don't know if it's like male conditioning, you're learned to look at certain traits as like weak or whatever. But as I've gotten older, I've gotten a little bit, well, I think I've gotten a little bit softer, and in a good way,
Well, I
and
think you
just
bring up a
realizing
good
that,
point
yeah,
because I'm female and you identify as male, and I think you and I have had plenty of conversations that there's just, you had to man up. Like, you
yeah,
couldn't, if you show but even the fact that you said that you've become soft, or you've softened, like that's got a negative stereotype. If you're a
mhm,
man and you actually show emotion, or, it
yeah,
it just,
totally.
and
And it
you're
feels
breaking that
weird.
down. You're breaking that
Yeah.
down. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, like, because, at first you're just like, well, is this okay? Am I allowed to cry? Am I allowed to, like, get vulnerable here? Is this, like, not, am I living up to the expectations? But when you kind of realize that they're all expectations, and actually, like, everybody has emotions and you have to process those, in order to get through them, the more you start to realize that that softening is actually, there's a strength behind that, because you're allowing yourself to be like who you are,
Yeah.
and now I can let the, like, quirky, bubbly, conversational, um part of my mom that lives on through me just kind of shine. And it's there's no shame around that, or there's no, like, it's just like, that's her legacy that she left through me. And so I really
Wow.
appreciate that. And it's really cool. Yeah.
I
I
think we
think
all
in
went into that retreat. If
Yeah.
I remember back to that, we were all
Yeah.
muted. I remember that
Oh
specific
yeah.
instance that we were just all, I mean, there were
Yeah.
50 plus people, and by the end of it, I mean, this is before I even understood the concept of unmuting and what I actually do, that
Mhm.
we broke open a piece of ourselves so that, we started actually being authentic. That was
Yeah.
what was it? November of 22, I think, maybe. No,
Yeah.
August, or
It
even,
was
I don't even.
September. It was
Okay.
September of 2022. Yeah, because it
Yeah.
was right, like, at the end of summer. And yeah, it was just, remember, it was raining, and it was like it had been a drought in Texas, like, before that. It was
Yeah.
my first time ever in Texas. There was, like, it was very interesting. There was, like, crickets all over the place. And
Yeah.
Priya and I were, like, we were doing ropes courses. And we climbed up, like a 20-foot wall or something like that. How tall was it? It was
I
like,
don't even
it
know.
was
I
like a
don't
it was
know.
like it was like the it was really tall. And there was, we even, well, Priya, you lifted me up over the wall, do you remember? And so I had to figure out how to get over this wall, and, like, you were the one that grabbed me and, like, hoisted me up when
I mean, it definitely, the events, all
yeah.
the different things that happened were
Yeah.
challenging. I mean, they
Yeah.
challenged us, to say the least, and really,
Hmm.
I feel showed everybody what their strengths were. I mean,
Yeah,
There was nobody who was not getting that way. I have to check that I'm saying this properly. Nobody was not getting along. Everybody was just supportive. I mean, I
totally.
just remember that, yeah, that was a pivotal moment in our lives because
Hmm.
we were mirrors to each other.
Hmm.
Like the stuff that we thought like, oh shit, somebody finds out about this, I'm doomed. And then meanwhile, we were saying it to each other and had witnesses to each other. And it was
Yeah,
like, okay, so what? Okay, so what?
right.
And then the fact
Right.
that, like, I remember specifically you coming up to me and telling me something, and I'm like, and
Yeah,
you're like
I
a good
remember that.
person, and
Yeah,
you're a really
I'm
good
like
person,
sharing. Yeah,
you know?
I know.
So,
Wow.
yeah,
It was it was definitely pivotal, and you go through something like that with somebody and you become lifelong friends. And I think there was like 50 people there with us, and I haven't stayed in contact with everybody, but I still have a lot of like love for everybody that's
absolutely.
there. If I
Yeah.
saw them on the street, I'd give them a big hug. And yeah.
So with
I,
with the
I
concept of,
yeah.
I mean, you did share some pretty intimate details about your life, your mom. Would you feel like that message of feeling being muted resonates with you?
Oh,
Like, were you
totally.
muted? Yeah,
Well, I was muted by my own ego. you know
that's
it was
deep.
like it was like I had no problems, like, you know saying whatever to anybody. I grew up, you know kind of on the edge of things. I was like a battle rapper when I was in my early 20s, and early to late 20s in the
That is
hip
so
hop scene.
cool.
Started rapping before 8 Mile, even, right? Because that's when all the like kind of white kids got into rap, right? So I was like, that
Yeah,
was like, I was like 14 years old, and before it was cool to be a white rapper, I guess. But
you
it
made it
was
cool.
a lot of fun. Yeah, and I just had a lot of friends in the city that I would hang out with, and we'd all freestyle and stuff. And and also just was always kind of around as like an element of not being completely legal in everything that I did. Like I was, for at one point in my life, I was like farming cannabis for like a couple years. And so I really kind of was just caught up in, I wouldn't say like a scene, because I kept my circle pretty tight. But I wasn't really working towards the future. I was just like, I didn't really have any goals. It was just, let's hang out and like take bong hits and whatever. In the meantime, I'm like married. My wife, who is, totally got her, I don't know if I can curse or not, but her shit
You can
together.
say whatever you want. Yeah,
Yeah, she stuck around. And it really was like my mid to late 30s that I kind of started to say, all right, I got to get out of this lifestyle. I need to start, just kind of working towards the future. So I fell into working for a kombucha company for like 6 years, and I had the opportunity to grow that from the ground up, and we ended up in like 200 stores around this direct area. I live in the Pacific Northwest. Right now, you can see the green trees behind me,
yes.
and yeah, and we blew it up, and we got into Whole Foods and national distribution. And at the end of that was kind of around the time that I started, working on myself. And it was just time for me to go and do my own thing, because, I helped my friend build his business, but I didn't really own anything of my own. And I had played such a pivotal role in that. There was always this like, I need to get out there and do that. And then it's like, what's holding you back?
Yeah,
Well, there was a lot holding me back, and guess what? It wasn't anybody else but me, you know.
yeah,
Um, and I think
yeah.
that going to that retreat, and taking about the 6 months beforehand to kind of start to work on myself. It was the COVID. It was like post COVID, right? So
Right, right.
everybody was going through stuff. I ended up on like antidepressants the year before. It was just like, and that was with a lot of people. It was just
Yeah.
it
It
was
was
crazy.
an
So
intense time.
Yeah.
Intense time. Now
And
you,
so just to kind of continue, I'm sorry,
no, go
just to
ahead.
kind of
I
continue
love it.
where I left off. Yeah, just so you know, as far as unmuting goes, I think what it was is that I had this voice inside of myself that I had never really let talk because I thought that it didn't fit the mold of what, my ego believed that I needed to be. And when I realized that it was my that same ego that was getting me to this point, it was like, what's the one thing that I always felt like I kind of just missed just short of the rim, and had been taking shots my whole life. And like, what was the one thing
What do you mean
that
by that?
like, well, as far as socioeconomically, and spiritually and just like relationship wise with friends, I felt like for the longest time that, I'd always kind of pictured myself being at a different place than where I was at. And that it wasn't really where I wanted to be. And I think it was just kind of looking back and really getting curious about like what's holding me back. And it was me. It was this thought that I had to be this certain person or do this certain thing that was causing me to just either make decisions out of fear or not really, go all in on anything. It's easier to look back on a situation and say, oh, well, I could have done that. I would have done that. And I think I found complacency in that, where it's like,
Yeah.
I'm just, I'd rather be right than just, go for it. Right. And so I start to, you start to act out because, you're not really happy and you're kind of searching for that thing. And then you're like, what's going to get me there? And it's like, oh, well, I only need to change one thing, and that's me. I like could be such a control freak and so judgmental to everything around me. And that's all I'd done my entire life is judged everything around me, whether it's good or bad. And I never took, I wouldn't say I never did. Like I had moments of clarity where I was, and moments of growth, but, I never really did that, like, and knew that that was what I was doing. Like that's why I was growing, right? So it would like I would
Right.
kind of start to grow, but then it would stop, you know. But then once I realized that if I just get out of my own way, I stop judging situations, I stop judging myself harshly, I stop judging the world around me harshly, and then I'm able to kind of see situations and see the world for like what it is, and that opens up clarity, So
You bring up, I'm
it's
part of this other group, and they study the teachings of Neville Goddard and the law of assumption. And what David teaches in that group is that everything that's happening in your external world is what's going on in your mind pushed out. So as you
Mhm.
describe this, it
Yeah,
is like it tells me that's exactly what's like once you start to change what's happening in your mind, change the stories, change the judgment, then everything that happens in
yeah,
your life starts to change for the better too. Would you say that?
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like, do
And
you
that
feel
was,
like it changed for you?
yeah, I do. And I'm still working on it,
Yeah.
and one thing that I've been looking at lately, as you might know, is just, looking at those stories, right? Because it's so easy to go back to your past and say, okay, especially if you like have trauma, which, all of us have our own traumas. And we want to judge those so harshly. This thing happened to me and it was so bad, but like, sorry. It's like, when are you going to put a positive spin on things? When are you going to start to see that silver lining around the clouds? And so lately it's like when I kind of go back, if I do choose to go back, which honestly doesn't happen as often as it used to, but it's like, okay, well, how can I rewrite this? And how can I really look at this, um not only, and I'm not saying sugarcoat it, like I don't think that there needs to be fluff, but really look at it as real and like objectively as you can, like anything that's happened in your past. but also like playing it out and looking at where things going and asking yourself like, okay, what have I learned from this and what have I gained from this and what has it done for me? Well, it's made me stronger. It's made
Yeah.
me more accepting of others. It's made me more accepting of myself because when you go through things and then you just, whether it's like, when I was a kid and I was, doing drugs and like, running amok, or when I was, just not being a good husband or I was, I was yelling at my friends and family when I got defensive and feeling spotlighted, that doesn't all feel good. But guess what? Like, it's that gave me an opportunity to really look at like my driving motivators behind that, so I think that life has a way of doing that, has a way of
I
like
love
putting
that.
that mirror in front of us, right?
I'm writing that
Where
down.
eventually
Driving
you just have to,
motivators.
yeah,
Yeah.
and just finding out, oh well, I'm not defensive right now because this person's being mean to me. I'm defensive because I really like want this person to like me or understand me, and like
Yeah.
and everyone's like, oh, you shouldn't want to be validated or anything. It's like it's totally normal to like want to be validated in life,
Absolutely.
right? It's like, oh, you need to be validated. Well, yeah, I kind of do need to be validated right now. I'm sorry, I wish that I didn't, but I'm human and that's okay, and it's just like,
It's being honest with yourself about
yeah.
it's okay that that's what
Right.
you
And that's
need.
that self-compassion. And I think that was like the big key that like I was always missing is just learning to just take your hand to your heart and just like, hey, I love me and you're okay. And like
Yeah.
you're not a royal fuck up, like you can do this. And now it's like I'm running my own business. We just landed like 2 new accounts last week. I've been into digital marketing lately and it's great. I was in sales my whole life, and I didn't like it. It was just always something I felt like I had to do. Like,
Yeah.
family pressure at a family full of salespeople, and I just dreaded it. I mean, there was times where it was cool, and I definitely was good at it. Like I get my wins, but I just I'm more of a creative soul, and so now like I'm able to develop websites and stuff, and still use like my sales skills to write copy. But now I have like I can do it kind of behind a computer and like just kind of geek out, which is like I love that. I love being
You're
able to just kind of,
Yeah.
yeah.
You're
Yeah.
unmuting in your own way. You're doing your work in your way. You're figuring out your style. You're creative, and I think that that's a
Yeah.
key too for when people are trying to figure out how to start living a life that's like unapologetically me, you, we,
Yeah.
I, however you want to say it. That you have to find your way of unmuting. It's not all verbal. It's not going to be the same way as another person. But when you
Hmm.
tap into that, like I
Hmm.
started doing the podcast, I didn't realize how much I love doing this. Like I don't,
Yeah.
it's just like just talking. I mean, yeah,
Right.
I'm a speech therapist, but there's the talking part of it that just lights me up, and yours is the creative part of it. So,
Yeah.
one other thing that you said that I wanted to come back to is just how because you inspired my Instagram post that apparently stopped the scroll around see more butts, because
Yeah.
it's like, yes, I had this trauma, and people often say but, or I want to do this, but I
Hmm.
really wish I could have this in my life, but, and you surround yourself with lots of buts, and then you end up, you know screwing yourself over of multiple
Yeah.
opportunities that could be flowing to you. And when you shift that, reframe it, which I can vouch for you that you have totally, you've reframed it.
Hmm.
The stuff that you say to yourself
Yeah.
is the
Totally.
reframe.
And
You've switched to an and. This happened and this, I want this and then just that simple hack could change everything, right? Would you
yeah,
say?
totally.
Yeah,
Right. And it's like we're always through a life we're going to be battling with these this foundation that we laid, and it was laid by us and whoever, the church, our parents, our school, um and ultimately through us, right?
right.
And through our interpretation of it. And I think that it's always going to come up, there's always going to be these times where it's like you might kind of fall back into it, into a funk. But the thing is just having good people around you that will kind of hold you to account for your shit, and that will just be there, when it's
Absolutely.
like, hey, I'm not feeling like I'm not feeling okay right now, and I don't know why, and these things are going on. And so, as long as you have the ability to at least get honest with it and then be objective, and be willing to like just do something different, just do something different. And that's the biggest thing, I think. It's just whenever I find myself like getting into this point where there's like a lot of resistance, building up in me, and I don't really know why I feel this way, and I know that there's a better way, but I don't necessarily remember like how to get out of it. It's like that's when you bring people in, and having people that you're close to that like kind of know you, and that there's no judgment is so crucial. And so that's why a lot of people say it's like, make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people that you know resonate with your highest self,
Yeah.
because those people will those people will carry you, when you can't carry yourself. So
And I
living
feel like
without butts. Yeah.
those people are going
Yeah.
to hold you to your highest self. So they're not going to put up with bullshit and the wah wah. They're going to be like,
Yeah.
look, this is you. This is what you need to do. I mean, and
Yeah.
but the biggest thing is they're not going to walk out on you. And
Hmm.
they're not going to be like, get over it and walk out on you. It's like
Right.
they're going to be there for you no matter what.
Yeah.
Um, with that, I mean, I have a question around personal development as a male doing personal development, and then also your journey. What have
Mhm.
you noticed about the flow, the in and out of relationships since you started shifting yourself?
Yeah, I found that the people around me that I assumed that like were going to be gone or that weren't figuring it out, their lives like played out in their own way too, to where they're kind of working on themselves. And I'm not saying that like I did it or anything, but like, no, it was totally me. No, just kidding.
I
But
think you
no, it
can say
wasn't. It
that.
wasn't.
It's
But I really feel like I just started to believe in myself, and it made it easier to believe in everybody around me. And maybe there's a universe. Maybe I switched. I believe that we can switch like universal planes, right? So I feel like I just hopped on the plane where everybody's like leveling up. And I'm not going to say that there are always going to be people around you that, are going to be able to do that. But for me, I guess I got lucky.
But what about the
And
idea that because you leveled up, you're allowing others to level up around you? You are
right.
the reason. You can take credit. Like own it.
Yeah.
Like
Right. Yeah. I mean,
own it.
I think so, like in a certain way, like because I'm starting to see, you see people around you, and you see it. Well, we are always like looking at people as reflections of ourselves.
Right.
And so the more you start to reflect the good onto other people, the more you start to see it, but the more they start to see it. And so yeah, I mean, those they took the actions and they actually did the work to get to where they are at. But but there there's definitely there is a synchronicity between all of that for sure.
Amazing.
So yeah,
What
yeah.
would you say to, because I've heard a lot of, especially with males or people who identify as being male, and just that
Mhm.
stop working on yourself and stop with the personal development. That makes you weak or something. What would you say to that? Or just to, because I think you are actually my first male, that person that I'm
Yeah.
interviewing who identifies as male. So
I would say what's weaker, sitting down and letting your demons kick your ass or kicking their ass, you know
mic drop.
that's
Yeah,
it. It's like
yeah,
I have shit, and I'm not afraid to admit that like I have had like dark skeletons in my closet, and I cleaned it out, and that was just through, it's like you look at these demons and then you realize that it's not a demon. It's just like your child self,
Yeah.
and they you don't need to battle them. They just need like a hug, you know. And
Yeah.
and so it's like connecting with that childlike essence of yourself, and really going and like being the parent to them that my parents didn't have the tools to be when they were younger,
It's an amazing tool to have to be able to go back to that little
yeah,
version of yourself and give them what they needed in that moment that they weren't getting, and that you really
yeah,
can go back in time and do those revisions and bring them back with
yeah.
you. Yeah.
And why is it like there always has to be this? I think that people, they might say that, but really what they're saying is, I'm I'm scared to do the work myself, and I'm just comfortable where I am. And if that's the case, just say that, don't yuck my
Yeah.
yum, I'm working on myself. And if you want to work on yourself, great. If you don't, I don't judge you. Like, I'm here for you, bro, but like, I'm going to be doing me. And, and sometimes you might end up at a point where you have kind of moved on enough to where, like, that person is behind you. And not to say that not to put myself like above other people, but
Hmm.
like, they're still catching up, so let them catch up, you know and sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of people around me that are pretty solid, and that wasn't always the case. But I think that it's just naturally happens when you're just constantly focusing on like getting aligned, right? And then when
Right.
you're not aligned, at least acknowledging it and saying, okay, I need to get back, So
And being the best
that's
version of
that's been a
yourself, right? I mean,
yeah,
I
yeah,
think one thing that I've realized on this journey is like everybody's going through their own journey. It's not the same. Same when you've met with Eric,
yeah,
Big E, Big E
yeah.
Astrology.
Hey,
I'm gonna have him.
hey, what's up?
Hey, what's up? We're gonna have him on
What's
here. Maybe we'll
up?
have a three-way with the three of us jamming.
Yeah, let's
That'd
go.
be
Let's go.
awesome. And then that will be your time to rap with him. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Um, but that just my nature. I was in this place where I was like, I'm improving. My life's getting better. You have to come with me. You have to come with me. And some people are like, the
Yeah.
more I did that, like, and I didn't know what I was doing. It's just I was
Hmm.
so wanting people to understand what I was going through. And so then they started digging their feet into the ground and like, no, no, no. But in retrospect and very many years later, I'm realizing they were going through their own journey and they still are.
Yeah,
And
totally.
it's a journey. It's a journey, no
Yeah.
matter what anybody's doing, right?
Yeah. Um, we all like we just um we just are kind of all doing the best that we can, and there's just another way out there, and we're so lucky to be in this time where there's literally, like, if you want to figure out about mental health, or I'm ADHD, right? So if you're neurodivergent or you're depressed or whatever, you can get on TikTok and like look at it, and there's going to
Hmm.
be 100 videos of like just great advice that'll pop up, and mental health is really starting to take a forefront in our society, here in the States, and in other other countries, not everywhere, but I think that the world hopefully will get there. But I just think that we are there's it's just out there, right? Like, the solution is always out there, so it's just finding it, you know
Absolutely.
yeah.
One of the things that I love about what you've talked about with me today is talking about the darkness and that those demons and that they're there, but
Mhm.
you're not identifying with them. You're not hanging on to them.
Yeah.
You're almost embracing them. I did have an interaction with somebody a few years ago and they kept talking about their darkness and I'm like, but you're not dark. I saw how what a good person they were. And they were like, you don't know what I've seen. And I said, I understand that, but you're not dark and you're not evil energy. And and then the response I got back was fuck your punk ass, because I said you're not dark. And it was like, that person just wanted to hang on to that identity because
Mhm.
God forbid they weren't dark. Who would they
Yeah,
be? And it's like,
yeah,
um, and I can offer them as Leo in the previous podcast episode was so showed us really how to offer somebody grace when they're just not ready,
yeah.
rather than going into a place of judgment and being like, don't tell me to fuck my punk ass, fuck your punk ass, instead of that, but like
Right, right. Well,
offer
it's the story.
grace.
It goes back to that. It's the stories that we tell ourselves, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
I used to run around like when I was in the hip hop scene and like I'd always tell people, I'm crazy, dude. I'm crazy. And one time like there was this other rapper and he pulled me aside and he was like, dude, don't say that about yourself. You know, I'll never forget this. Like this happened before I was even on my journey, but he's like, don't say these things about yourself because you'll start to believe them, you know? And
Wow.
I never said I was crazy after that. Like I never said that, you know. And I know we don't say the C word anymore, you know, but this was a different time, you know, but like
Yeah,
yeah. Um and so I
that's incredible.
yeah, it is
Yeah, like
incredible.
just
Yeah.
that whole concept of I am and I amness, of what you say to yourself, saying I am
Yeah.
dark. Be careful what you say
Yeah.
to yourself because you're actually
Yeah.
going to believe yourself when you do.
Right.
Yeah,
And it's easy to kind of go through really horrible shit and just kind of think that, you know, and get an ego off of that and then start to use it to, you know, separate yourself from everybody else, you know? And that's really what it is but it comes from hurt, right? It's like
yeah,
you're hurt and you feel like nobody wants you, so it's like, well, I just I don't even want them either. Screw it, I'm done, you know, I'm
yeah,
out of here. I'm not part of normal society anymore. I'm this, you know. And then you're just living in this like I'm this or I'm that, and you're stopping yourself from just being like I'm whatever, like who
exactly.
cares, you know, because we exist, right? And I firmly believe this, and I think you do too, but that we always exist right here, like right here right now. We're not who we are going to be 5 years from now, and we aren't who we were 10 minutes ago, you know.
Right.
um it's right here and right now because the only thing that truly exists is now. So how could you be this? So if anybody's ever like looking for a moment or like to just change everything, well, guess what? Everything just changed like right now, and it's going to
Now.
continue, you know.
Exactly.
And that's it, you know. But yeah, no, it's been cool. Like I've really surrounded myself you know, with people like you that are just, you know, kind of working on themselves, that we're all beautifully imperfect, and we are on our journey, but we're all moving forward, and having people around that just you know are motivated and that, you know, like to kind of geek out on stuff. And even I've been, you know, geeking out on entrepreneurship, and you know, and we'll have our discussions where we talk about that, and it's like it's okay to, like, you know, get excited for the future, like, you know, but also like rooting yourself in the present of like what needs to happen right here right now, whether that change is internal or like, you know, external, like I gotta go clean my room or whatever. Like just get up and do it, don't judge it, you know. The moment that we start to dread it is the moment we start to judge it. And you know, I've been reading this book, the Reality Transurfing volume 1 through 5, and
The
it's just
Vladimir,
so good. Yeah,
it's
I
so
love
good.
it.
I
Yeah,
have that.
Vadim Zealand, and he talks about in the second chapter about pendulums and how everything that is, I think it's like he says, everything that is created, or every time a group of people gets together, two or more people gets together, because they have a cause, a similar cause, that creates a pendulum, right? And then there becomes like warring factions within the pendulum, and then pendulums fighting other pendulums, and everybody's kind of in a pendulum, and you're going to be in one no matter what. Like, but learning how to use that, and when you start to look at, you know, these systems of control that we create for ourselves off of, you know, what we think, you know, we need to do to fit the status quo within the pendulum that we exist in, um, the more you start to step outside of that and look at it like, oh, it's just a, it's this is just a mechanism, right? and I don't have to judge it. I don't have to be part of this. I can see it from the outside. If I want to step in, that's fine. And I can act within that, but at least then I acknowledge that I'm part of this system of control, and I choose whether or not I let it control me, you know. And so it's been really eye-opening lately to kind of look at, like, it just added another layer to that curiosity that we were talking about,
Uh,
as far as
it's
like,
like,
oh, okay, I'm actually, because, okay, well, maybe I feel this way because I do this thing because this thing happened, right? Or, I'm actually trying, the pendulum is trying to catch me up in it right now. And I just need to take a step back, and everything in me, like, it wants to jump inside of the pendulum, right? I just like, I have this, like, this just, this root, this, like, this, yeah, I don't know if it's like from my innermost self, like, I just want to get in, but it's like, just do something different, just disrupt, stop
yeah,
yourself, and then look at it for what it is. And if it takes you 10 minutes, if it takes you an hour, if it takes you a day, that's fine. Just wait until you're not going to react. Wait until you are able to respond, and just do it in a way that is calculated and kind of disrupts the whole energy. And that's like within everything. And I know that it really gets really deep, and I'm not
that is
doing it justice
amazing.
to the
Yeah,
way that he did, but
yeah.
yeah.
I was talking about that
Yeah.
with somebody, just disrupting energy. Like we think that when there's disruptions that it's bad. Like,
Mhm.
but the disruption is actually what creates the change and creates the
Yeah,
different neural
right.
patterns. I mean, I'm a visual person, and when you
Excuse me.
even just respond to something differently than you
Yeah.
normally would have, your brain has said, oh, okay, I'm going to create a new path. And then you just do it more. And, you know,
Yeah.
so disruptors are good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now I'm getting to the point where it just naturally happens, right? Like, it's been a couple years and I've been disrupting a lot, and now it's like that's my go-to. Something comes up and I'm like, um I'm just, and then I'll look back and I'll be like, wow, like, that was easy, and then I'll take some a cue from a friend and just be like, of course it was easy. Of course.
Yeah, of course. Of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Of course it was easy. It happened,
of course.
it's, yeah. Um, but yeah, I think it's just, at the end of the day, if you're looking at something and you're comparing yourself to it, or you're judging it, or you're telling yourself that, like, you're not going to be that, even if that's this, right? Even if that's like this podcast,
Hmm.
it's like, don't, and if you need to take a minute to get back to, like, come back and watch it later, just realize that, like, if somebody's telling you something that sounds great and wonderful and like the best thing ever, and you feel like this thing that they're saying is like it's going to change your life, and then you hear it and you're like, okay, that's it, that's all I need to hear, I got this, and this person just, like, they gave me everything that I needed, that's like, that's good. But you should also learn to enter situations where you're not. So lately it's been like, I'm trying to, if I hear something or I see something on TV and I start to, like, I tear up or whatever, or I'm like, oh, that was really, like, I take a step back and I'm like, okay, wait, it was cool. It's not that great. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
not like trying to let it control my emotions, but more like just trying to understand it rather than just letting it immediately appeal to my feelings,
It's stepping
like,
back as the
right.
observer. I mean, I literally pull my body
Yeah.
back from situations, especially when I'm out and people, and that something similar will happen in a situation, and I'll notice that I'm leaning into it, and that it's just literally pulling myself back and being the observer and being like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
And I'm with you with there about like believing it, that what this person said is true. It's just actually like, let's take that. Let's see if it resonates with your own self. Like, because ultimately we have the answers. Like, I do
Mhm.
the work, I do all my healing work, but I never say that I'm doing it to someone. I facilitate what's already happening within your body. I facilitate, you know, those
Right.
connections to
Right.
be made, because everybody, you've got the answers in yourself.
Yeah. It's just striking
Yeah,
a chord somewhere that was already there.
yeah.
That's it. and so it's just like that. I feel like that can be, because if you're already somebody that somebody says something that can ruin your entire day, you know then and then the next day somebody says something that makes your entire day great, it's still coming from the same root. There's still the same thing that needs to be addressed, right? And so I realize that the more I'm able to kind of look at the great things objectively, the more I'm also able to look at like the harder things to look at objectively. You know what I mean? So
That
yeah.
that was me even up until about like I want to say 6 or 7 months ago. My mood was dependent on how other people were reacting with me, like completely
Yeah.
dependent. So I could talk to you
Yeah.
and you'd be standoffish, my mood would change. You'd be happy, my mood would change.
Mhm.
It was such a shit show, internal shit show
Yeah.
until
I'm
I
the
just
same
like,
way. Like I
yeah,
literally feel like I'm just kind of at this point where I'm really learning to just not judge things, and not to say that I'm always going to have, we are always going to have those judging things. So it's like I sit down and I talk about all these things that I'm doing, but I could get in a car an hour from now and somebody could flip me off, and I could flip them off back, and then the next 15 minutes I'm like, damn it, I shouldn't have, and then I'm beating myself up for like not like living my highest self. Right? like like that can happen. It's
that
totally
can
possible for
happen.
that to happen. And
Yes,
so, it's more like bringing this stuff up just to say that it's it's okay. Like that's okay, and it's okay that somebody says something that's great. But just appreciate yourself. Instead of appreciating the person, yes, appreciate them, but also appreciate your ability to acknowledge it and your ability to say, okay, I'm going to store that and I'm going to see if I can use it later, because you're just
absolutely.
hearing it right now. That you like having this like getting really excited about it, or like, oh, this is the best download I've ever had ever. Oh, I'm like, I've got it figured out. Like, that's not the action, right? The action is actually taking that and applying it later, right? And
Right.
if you're already getting all the good feelings from it right now, what it's like you've already gone through. I don't know. I don't even know if that's like anyone's ever said anything like that, but I just feel like for me, that makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we have just a few minutes left. You are my longest podcast yet.
Yay!
Congratulations.
Okay.
Wait. We gotta.
Yeah! Woo!
We, we surpassed the 38-minute mark. So
Great.
congratulations. So
Thanks.
you are an amazing, talented entrepreneur. I want you to tell the audience how, what how they can get in touch with you and the work that you do, because you've got a real skill out there that I think a lot of people could tap into.
Yeah, absolutely. So, right now I am working for a digital marketing group called Ignite Online Formulas, and we really just help businesses take their business to the next level. So we've got some really great leadership. Everybody that um, is in our collective is kind of an independent solopreneur that does better in a team. So we all kind of work
I
together,
love that.
and the main goal is just to help businesses out through online marketing, whether that's paid advertising or SEO or whatever, or business consulting. So I would say the two leaders within our organization have a cumulative, 70 years of pretty intense business acumen, and they're great. One's an idea guy, the other's an operations guy. And I'm learning from both of them right now, and they're both incredible to work with, and they're both very just heart-centered and amazing people that
Yeah,
lead through abundance and lead through example. So and they really care about like me and like what my opinion is and what how I feel like things need to move. And so it's all very synergistic. But we've helped since we started in November. We've helped about four businesses kind of take off, and we're seeing really great results from doing a big convention in Nashville for like a high level sales rep, to we're working with a short term rental company right now, and
amazing.
also it's been really cool. But yeah, if you guys are looking
How can
for
people get
any,
in touch with you?
yeah, oh, you can just reach out to me on my Facebook. It's facebook.com backslash, I think it is backslash Alex Ficani. Okay, let's see here. Going to, sorry everyone, I don't mean to. Okay. Oh, actually, just reach out to me on Instagram. It's a dot Ficany, Fikany, and that's F as in Frank, IK, A, N as in Nancy, Y, and that's it.
Awesome.
Yeah,
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 if you're looking to scale your business, reach out to Alex. He's your guy.
yeah. That's me.
Alex, thank you. This was amazing.
Yeah,
It's been a while since you and I had a chat.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Thank you for being episode
It's been
6.
great.
Thank you for your authenticity and vulnerability. And thank you for honesty, your honesty most of all. And I think,
Yeah,
yeah, I can't wait to put this on and I can't wait to share it with
yeah.
everyone.
Well, I'm really excited, and thanks for having me on, Priya. It's been a pleasure, and thanks for everyone for
I'll
watching.
have I'll have you
Yeah.
back on again. We'll have you with Big E Astrology. Check him out as well.
All
All
right, let's
right.
do it. I'll definitely do a drop in for sure. All right,
Definitely.
cool.
All right. See you again soon.
All right, good. See you.